again. Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. My guest this evening is Sarah Gallardo from Sarah Speaks. Sarah, welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you,
I'm
Pete?
good, thanks. I'm good. So I guess the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is tell us a little bit about who is Sarah?
That's a great question. I grew up in Berlin, Connecticut.
Okay.
And, as a kid, I was really active in school. I was the founder of the peer mediation group.
Which is?
I made it up. I thought it was a good idea.
All right.
Yeah, you get the kids involved in
Right.
sort of problem solving and mediating issues. So I did that. I was the captain of the diving team.
There you go.
And my high school newspaper editor for 2 years.
Always fun.
Yeah, but my main passion has always been singing. So I know I did a lot of performing in that way. Madrigals, jazz choir, Northern Regionals, All-State, you name it. I was all kinds of involved in music.
Okay, very nice. So I guess we're going to also talk tonight about, what was life like growing up for you?
Life was, Berlin is a small town.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And my parents had their own struggles.
Okay.
There were issues with alcoholism and that kind of a thing. So growing up in that environment, it was difficult for me as a kid. And I'm the oldest of 3 girls.
Okay.
So I sort of picked up that slack, whatever sort of was left over, and tried to make sure that everything ran smoothly and everybody had what they needed and was cared for.
Right.
And that started at a pretty young age.
Okay.
So I think around the age of 9, I was like learning to cook and, does macaroni count? Does macaroni count?
Sure, absolutely.
I think it counts.
Of course it does. Of course it does. So I understand that you're involved with a nonprofit.
I am, actually.
Or you are you are a nonprofit. Tell us about it.
Sure. I founded the nonprofit called Sarah Speaks Up. Sarah's me. I did that because, for domestic violence awareness.
Okay.
And I did that because I am a domestic violence survivor.
Really?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And that, it was something that to me, going through what I went through, I wanted to give back to the people who were still experiencing something, whether they're in the situation still or they've come out and, there are issues or any sort of struggles with PTSD, exes, etc. Really just a place of support and, wanted to do more for our community.
Okay. Now, what is PTSD?
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
This is something where people get flashbacks sometimes, and it can be really, really invasive.
Okay.
Sometimes, it's things like nightmares, panic attacks, that sort of a thing. And it's really just the stress that's associated with whatever traumatic event that they had experienced. So, for example, a smell, a sound, a song, a place, a person's name. It's almost sky's the limit with what a trigger might be or what would remind a person of this past traumatic event.
Right. Now, what did you, I guess with the relationship that you went through, what are some of the signs, or what did you go through?
I met my ex-husband through a friend.
Okay.
And I found out that he, was in a relationship, so that, it wasn't an option for us to date.
Right.
they ended up moving in next door to me, and upon his breakup, he and I began to talk.
Okay.
fast forwarding a bit of time here,
No, you're good.
I noticed some red flag behaviors. A lot of like controlling what I was wearing or who I would talk to.
Okay.
Looking through my cell phone and that kind of stuff. And that sort of escalated to breaking my things and, controlling more and more. One of those things happened to be whether or not I was allowed to take birth control pills.
Really?
And he did not want me to, so I didn't, and I got pregnant very quickly. And actually, that is when the physical violence really began, and escalated very quickly, to the point where I had a miscarriage.
Really?
So after that, I tried to hide my birth control pills in the trunk of my car, and I would take them in the mornings. But one morning, you see, he used to sleep in all the
Right.
time, so I thought I was safe.
Exactly.
That wasn't the case on this morning.
Uh-oh.
So he saw me, and I was beaten for that as well. So I got pregnant again, and he was still violent. So I had another miscarriage. That was a really, really low time in my life, because he told me that it was my fault, that I wasn't strong enough to carry a child. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I mean, so far I had lost the two. And it was after that things got really, really tense. He began drinking more and using drugs more often. I really just walked on eggshells.
Yeah.
That was like how I existed in our house. And, I'd go to work and I tried to be that steady person, almost like I feel I tried to
Right.
be as a kid too.
Right.
With all that turmoil going around, I felt like it was my job to just make sure everything, worked the way it was supposed to. And one night in particular, I was coming home and I parked my car behind our apartment, and I was walking around the car to go into the apartment, and he sort of came out of nowhere. He walked toward me, and I didn't know if he was angry or what was going on. I didn't know what to expect. And I also didn't know that he had a gun. And he shot at me once, and he missed. So, but he did shoot out the window of my car. And so he went into the apartment, and I was left with the option of, scream, run, do something.
Exactly.
What do you do? Or I was in such shock in that moment that I think I came to this place where I assumed that he would kill me. And I did go inside. Obviously, I made it through the night.
Right.
However, I drove to work the next day with shattered glass all over the inside of the car, and that was sort of a reminder of the thing that had happened, which takes but a second, and could have been the end for me.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Pretty depressing.
I'm not trying to depress people.
No. No, we're trying to get the word spread out about the organization. But.
Well, that's, I think, the positive part of this is that, yes, the story can be so heavy.
Right.
But the reality is, I'm here.
Right.
And the message is that there is help.
Right.
And there is hope for people.
Right. Now, what you just said that there is help. What type of help is there for people?
It's a great question. I volunteer at the Prudence Crandall Center in New Britain, Connecticut.
Okay.
I've done a myriad of things for that organization. In the state of Connecticut it's almost like counties.
Yep.
How we are broken up into counties.
Yep.
Domestic violence organizations have what they call a catchment system, and so they don't go by the counties that are set because we had to have more.
Right.
Of us. We've got places like Interval House and my sister's place. Obviously the Prudence Crandall Center, and there are organizations all over. They cover every single town in the state of Connecticut. All you have to do is, if you're interested in need of help or anything,
Yep.
you can go to the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence website.
Yep.
That's CCADV, and you can look up which organization services your area, and that's how you're going to get your free and confidential services.
And what if somebody walked into one of the centers for a confidential service? What's the typical process like? Is it pretty standard? Is it pretty detailed? Or?
I don't know that there's actually a standard sort of way. I think the fact is everybody has such a different situation. Mm-hmm. Although yes, the similarity is domestic violence.
Right.
Some people have children, some don't, some have pets, some need to be relocated immediately. Some can get one-on-one counseling or group therapy while they're even still in that situation.
Really?
So I think, it's really tailored to that person's specific situation.
Okay. And from what I understand, and we'll talk about this in a little while, that you guys have an event coming up.
Yeah, Sarah Speaks Up, which is my nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
We just turned a year old.
Yay!
I know, so it's very exciting. Got a little cake with the number 1 on it.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. But yes, we are having a fundraiser.
Okay.
So the fundraiser is October 22nd.
Yes.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be at the Library Wine Bar and Bistro in Wallingford, Connecticut.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And how much tickets?
Tickets are $75.
All right.
You will get beer and wine.
Okay.
That's always good.
Oh, of course.
All right. Fruit and cheese. We've got hors d'oeuvres. We've got a pasta dish. And we've got a silent auction.
Very nice.
We've got some live music and some
Excellent.
speakers as well.
All right. Well, Sarah, we're about to go into a quick break. Would you mind sticking around?
I will be here when we get back.
All right. We'll be right back.
Pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Sarah Gallardo from Sarah Speaks Up. Sarah, welcome back.
Thanks, Pete.
Hey, no problem. So we were talking about before we went into the break about if you need help, where you should go. I was wondering if maybe we can pick up on that a little bit and get a little bit into more of a detail of if you need help and if you decide if you want to go to a shelter, and as far as that aspect of things.
What to do?
Right.
So I think everyone in this day and age has a cell phone.
Right.
The trick there is trying to search for any information without your abuser getting a hold
Trying
of
to,
it.
right, exactly.
Or really looking at like your search history. If you have things stored in your phone, that can be tricky, that can be complicated. I do recommend that if someone is in that kind of a situation
Yep.
and they need to search for information, they do so either on a friend's phone,
Yeah.
a computer, someone else's computer, the library,
Right.
somewhere at work. And you know, even any medical professional,
Right.
you go to a walk-in, you go to your doctor. I mean, these are acceptable appointments.
Right.
These are things that everybody has to do.
Exactly.
You can mention it during something like that.
Right.
You can say, this is happening to me. Those people will have the resources for you. Again, there are all different kinds of ways to come up with this information. What you can do is once you contact one of those organizations,
Right.
they have the means to relocate people sort of in that moment,
Okay.
if it is that much of an emergency. Again, everyone's situation is different. Things happen so fast. Really, what I do always stress is to try and be prepared as much as possible.
Right.
They do have what's called a safety planning list,
Okay.
which you can download off the computer, and that is honestly, it's just like any kind of a blank template.
Right.
And it'll say, you know, get your important paperwork together, leave a bag of clothes at a friend's house or
Right.
in the trunk of your car. And this is, you know, sort of preparing your items, preparing yourself mentally, and really if, in the case of an emergency, you need to leave
Right.
in that moment, you're not scrambling around trying to get those things. You've got your plan set, you're prepared, and you know exactly what to do.
Exactly, exactly. Now, from what I understand, just by doing some research on tonight's show, and I understand you have a daughter.
I do have a daughter, yeah. So, you know, lost the first two, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
But the third pregnancy, well, I ended up, in order to save that pregnancy, I would turn around if ever I was getting hit, and I would wedge my stomach in the corner of two walls
Right.
in whatever room I was in, so that I would only get hit in the back and never the front.
Right.
And I think that for that reason, I was able to give birth to a healthy baby girl.
Okay.
So my daughter just turned 9.
Yeah, okay.
And it's been the two of us by ourselves pretty much since she was 6 months old. Wow. Yeah, we were able to leave when she was 6 months old. And so she was a little baby. And, you know, when I had her, that's when everything changed for me. Because up until that point, I had become so hopeless. And I kind of stopped caring about myself. I couldn't really do that anymore. It was just sort of gone from me. And having my daughter is really what gave me the strength to pick myself up and say, hey, you know, nobody else is going to defend her. Nobody else is going to show her an example of what a strong woman is, you know, or anything like that. I didn't want her to grow up in the kind of household where it was okay to watch her father abuse her mother and
Exactly.
have that be this sort of unspoken lesson of how it would be okay for her to be treated.
Exactly. And I guess how is she? How's she doing to this day?
She's doing very well. Yep, she just started 4th grade.
Okay.
Had her birthday in August,
Yep.
so that was a pool party and totally fun. And she's starting violin this year.
Nice.
I know.
Excellent.
It's very exciting. Well, you know, starting chorus and violin. So me, of course, having been the music buff, I'm all for
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, you're running around.
So excited.
I guess during with her growing up, I guess did she know something was happening, or did she know something was up?
She did not know, and I prided myself on the fact that, you know, I worked extra hard at her growing up and not feeling different, you know, not lacking anything. I tried to cover all the bases as much as I possibly could, to the point where, you know, when she actually did have to know the truth, that was the biggest challenge.
Right.
You know, was how to sort of burst this protected little bubble that I had kept her in for so long, and share then what was real to the best of my ability that wouldn't really affect her negatively.
Right. I guess as a follow-up, what did you tell her? Or how did you broach it up? How did you bring up the subject?
Well, I had to bring up the subject because my ex-husband was being released from prison. And so I was concerned that he might try and approach her,
Right.
you know, God forbid, all the terrible things that go through your mind.
Oh, yeah.
And so for her safety, I had to tell her, you know, that I actually showed her a picture. She didn't know what he looked like.
Okay.
She had no idea.
Right.
You know, so I said, if this person approaches you, please, you know, run or tell a grown-up or whatever the case may be. And I ended up, you know, alerting her school and, you know, everyone, the Girl Scout leader and the Kung Fu, everyone knew what was going on. And so not to release her to anyone, you know, that hadn't been signed over. But I mean, in terms of her, she handled it really well. She is a very well-adjusted, mature, and caring little kid. So she's not actually a little kid anymore.
No.
She'll always be my baby.
She's 8.
I know. She's 9.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
right. That's right. That's right. So, from what I understand, that you're also a counselor.
I am.
Let's talk about that.
I'm a certified domestic violence counselor. And that started actually, I was attending a domestic violence support group for 4 years.
Wow.
Actually, yeah. I needed that place to go to, you know, get the support, really talk through things and do all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if anyone is on the fence about going to a support group, I fully support that. It's the first place I didn't feel like I was crazy or alone.
Right.
And after the 4 years, apparently I was doing what I do, which is talk a lot.
Right. That's okay.
Hence the name, Sarah
Exactly.
Speaks Up. But I was interjecting and I was trying to help people. Lo and behold, the counselor was moving away and someone needed to take over, and she saw something in me and she encouraged me to get my certification. And so I did. And from then I took over that support group. And I also volunteered for a while at the New Britain courthouse as as an advocate. And now for the Prudence Crandall Center, I am on the fundraising committee, and I do a lot of public speaking, not only for them, but for my own organization as well.
Now, when you speak for them and you speak for your organization as well, are they pretty much the same details of topics, or do they vary?
That's a good question. You know, my story is what it is.
Right.
You know, you can't change that. I think that depending on whatever audience I was speaking to, I would sort of tailor either what details I left in or out, you know, how long it was, and just, for example, you know, if it's for women's empowerment,
Right.
you know, then that would be the message there. Or if it was specifically about what it feels like as a domestic violence survivor, you know, I would give more details in that area.
Now, what is it? Good question. What does it feel like to be a domestic violence survivor?
What does it feel like to be a domestic violence survivor? I mean, it is a difficult thing,
Right.
but it is also, let's put it this way. I believe that every person has lived through some kind of adversity in their life, whether it's bullying
Right.
or loss or illness or, you know, any sort of thing you could fill in the blank here. I'm not saying that we haven't suffered, that we don't suffer, we do.
Right.
But we're not different than everyone else. You know, we walk among everyone every single day, and you know, we keep it together. You know, I know so many people, so many survivors who really, they work hard at maintaining, I don't like to use the word normal.
Right.
Normal life. I don't really know what that is, but
Exactly.
you know, I think, you know, just functioning on a day-to-day basis without that becoming your identity. It's not who you are, it's just something that you've been through.
Right. Now, just by looking over some notes, I guess that you're a 2015, I know I'm going to screw this up, so I'm going to take a
No,
look.
you can do this.
Women of Inspiration Award winner.
You did it.
There you go.
Yes.
Let's talk about the award.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. I was contacted, and this was through the Connecticut Sun women's basketball team.
Right.
So they asked, you know, would I be willing to receive this award? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you so much. You know, I was one of 3 women, and it was a surreal time, actually. And I do have a couple pictures of myself standing out in the middle of this basketball court, and all the lights around are dark, but I had sat through the first half of the game, so I knew that those seats were packed.
Exactly.
You know? And you come out and receive your award, and it was kind of nice that the lights were out, because I felt like I didn't see all the people.
Exactly.
But what was a really awesome moment, when my best friend was there, and so my daughter and her daughter are also best friends, and she brought my daughter to sit right at the edge of, you know, where they have the seats at the edge of the court, and right when I walked up and they were, you know, handing me the award, my daughter ran across the court and like bowled into me and gave me this big hug, which of course, you know, it wasn't really scripted.
Exactly.
But there was this sort of
Exactly.
that fell over the whole entire.
Then the whole entire arena of hundreds and thousands of people.
Exactly. You know, the whole thing. And so she stood out there with me for the rest of
The presentation.
The rest of the presentation. She stayed right next to me.
Really?
Which is fitting.
Right.
I think.
Exactly.
You know, she's such a big part of all of it, really.
Oh, totally.
So.
Totally. From the information, one more time before we say goodnight, when's the event?
The event is October 27th.
All right.
That's a Saturday.
22nd?
22nd.
22nd?
Did I say 27th?
Yes, you did. That's okay.
October 22nd.
Thank you.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
All right. Sarah Gallardo from Sarah Speaks, I want to thank you for coming down. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Yes.
All right. Thanks. Good night, and we'll see you next week.